The skies, they're just beautiful this Saturday morning, July the 30th of 2022. For today at least, the rain is supposed to clear up here in Kentucky, and the floodwaters, they are receding a bit. But sadly, there's another 1 to 2 inches of rain expected tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday, and this ground, it is already saturated. Maybe you've heard that old adage, red sky at night. It comes from the Bible, Matthew, and there's a hint of truth in that old saying. As a red sky in the morning, it indicates there's a lot of moisture still in the atmosphere, and this is not good news for these folks down in the mountains of Appalachia. I grew up in these mountains, and I can tell you when a heavy rain hits, it is amazing how quickly the creeks and the rivers rise up and cause a flash flood. People underestimate the power and the strength of moving water. It washes houses off of the foundations, carries them downriver, and then smashes them like toys against the boulders and the trees or the bridges. Here in Jackson, the main roads, they seem clear, but the first responders, they're getting stocked up for a day of search and rescue. These hollows and the creeks, they're still flooded, and some are inaccessible. The death toll today is 25, but there are still a lot of people unaccounted for. The flood, it started late in the night, while most people were still asleep and unaware. So make sure your technology-impaired friends and loved ones, especially older parents, etc., that they have weather alerts enabled on their cell phones. It might save a life. Continuing on down Highway 15, we get to the community of Ned in Breathitt County. And like elsewhere, the creek has receded, but it's still swollen and angry, clutching school buses, parts of mobile homes, and rooftops, like a cat with a mouse, but unsure of what to do with it. Several homes, they've been washed off the foundations, and the side roads have washouts. Some easy to see, and others not so much. And it's dangerous to drive on the edge of these small roads, as the ground is soft and can give way without warning. Don't drive through running water. You don't know the conditions of the roadbed. Highway 476 near Russell Branch. The floodwaters, they're off of the road now, but they left behind a parting gift in the form of a thick layer of slippery mud down to trees and power lines. Here, it looks like the water rose maybe 25 feet, maybe more, and tore off the guardrails of the bridge before leaving. And somehow, strangely, this minivan remained steadfast in place, while the home that was here next door is gone completely. There's nothing left. There are entire houses on the roadway just collapsed, piles of rubble now. Who knows if there were people trapped inside or who could not get out or were afraid to get out. It may take days or even weeks to account for everyone. Sadly, later in the day along 476, the state and local LEOs appeared to be searching for something or someone next to the river's edge. I don't know, too sad to stick around. That was the one thing that I disliked about being a newspaper reporter all those years ago. It looks like Hazard, the city, has been spared the river's wrath, at least this time. There was some minor flooding along the river's edge, but it looks like this time Hazard has escaped. But the little community of Bulan, it appears to have been hit hard. Bulan used to be an old mining town, and the old-timers, they called it Pistol City. Evidently the only law here then, it belonged to the mines. Today, the flood has left its creeks filled with debris and flooded vehicles, its roads washed out. The houses in these narrow little hollows, they sit between the roads and the creeks. The creeks are at the bottom of these tall mountains, and it looks like very few of these houses have been spared at least some kind of intrusion from the muddy water. Leaving Bulan, we continue on up 476 to where it junctions with 550, a small community called Dwarf. Here again, the search and rescue are forming up to search the houses, vehicles, and the riverbanks. The creeks are filled with vehicles. Some are partially submerged and inaccessible. Others, no doubt, remain hidden beneath this murky water. You'll notice the orange X's on the side of some of them. They've been searched and verified. No one inside. But there are several on the other side of the rivers and creeks. Some in the creeks, upside down, half submerged. And probably some that won't be seen for several days. The National Guard was on 550, walking along the riverbanks, searching the cars and houses and buildings that were still standing, and through the debris piles that once were houses, looking for victims. Some of these structures, though, they look very suspect, like they could fall in or collapse at any moment if they're disturbed. And who knows what chemicals and toxins these guys are being exposed to. I hope they're taking precautions. On along 550, through Emmelena and Carrie, there are more cars and boats claimed by the river. And at Hubyville, the state trooper and gang are searching the creek and debris field for victims. The cost of human lives alone may be 50 or more once everyone's accounted for. And then, the widespread property damage. If you consider these houses to be between $50,000 and $100,000, and add on today's inflation, I can see this disaster costing hundreds of millions in property loss alone. The flood has reached levels never seen before in this area, and talking with a couple of the locals, it's doubtful that the majority of these people had any flood insurance. Passing through Hindman, I continue to follow 550, which runs parallel to the aptly named Troublesome Creek, and the devastation continues. Many of the local water treatment plants in the area, they're out of commission, and the places that still have water, they're under a boil water advisory. So on the way here, I stopped and bought several cases of water to donate to local aid organizations, and then I passed this woman, filling containers out of the creek in front of her house to flush toilets with and such. So I dropped off some of the water here and gave out the rest to people helping in the search and rescue missions. Every little bit helps. In the early 1990s, I was flooded out of my apartment and lost a few things. But fortunately, at that time, I didn't have anything that was really valuable to lose. And I was able to save most everything that mattered to me that had any meaning at all. My photos, small mementos and such. And Looking at this, it must be absolutely heartbreaking to come home and find that there is only a foundation left. Everything you've worked for, saved for, in your whole life that had any meaning is simply gone. I have to hand it to these road crews. Everyone jokes about the guys holding the signs and having 3 or 4 supervisors who stand around and watch the one guy working. But these guys, they're working hard to get this mud and debris off of the roads. They're earning their pay this week for sure. But this is a big job. It's going to take days to get all these roads cleared. So if you run up on these guys while they're working, give them some room. This cleanup process is going to hit some of these people really hard. No insurance, or an insurance that hasn't kept up with the massive inflation this year. People are going to be struggling. I know there was some help from the state government for last year's tornado victims in Western Kentucky, but red tape and government bureaucracy, that's going to take time. These people need help now. It will take months or more to replace all of these bridges, repair all of these roads, not to mention the private bridges and roadways that have been destroyed. Keep these folks in your thoughts. If you're local to Perry County and the surrounding area, here's a link for their official volunteer form. Maybe you can deliver supplies or drive people somewhere. Or if you can, donate cash. Here is a link to the Team Kentucky official site. Remember, be wary of the charities and scams that are going to pop up, no doubt. Until next time, guys, stay safe, be a good human, and take care.